Hello and welcome to Shriners Hospitals for Children. My name is Tammy Robbins and I'm here today with Dr. Stephen Wolf, who is the Chief of Staff at Shriners Hospitals for Children in Galveston, one of our 4 burns hospitals across the system. We're here today to talk about firework safety going into the 4th of July, especially because there are so many canceled community fireworks shows. So we want to talk a little bit about safety on this 4th of July weekend. So welcome, Dr. Wolf.
Happy to be here. I hope I don't see a bunch of kids, but maybe we will.
We hope that we don't see a bunch of kids, and that's exactly why we're doing this today. We want to, obviously the 4th of July weekend is here, and many of this year's community displays all throughout the country are being canceled because of the COVID pandemic and keeping people socially distant and safe from each other. But with this cancellation, and even I've noticed this in my own community already, families may want to try to create the same excitement at home and do backyard fireworks displays or fireworks displays out in the street. Give us some insight about protecting ourselves and our kids.
Yeah, so what's important to remember about fireworks is it is fire. By definition. And so where there's fire, burns are a potential. It can be done safely, and the professionals do that very well. And I got to say that I've seen very, very few, true fireworks professionals ever in a burn center. There is a way to do it safe. However, most people, people that are, buying fireworks on the roadside stand are not professionals with that. And so there are some concepts that are helpful if you decide that that's something you'd like to do. It is kind of exciting. We all like to go see that kind of stuff, but it's, like bungee jumping or something like that. There is some associated risks that you have to worry about. And so the things to think about when you are doing fireworks is, number one, don't do them. Number two, if you feel like you got to do them, then particularly for small children, they have these glow sticks and things like that. I think we're going to go into sparklers in particular, but do the low risk stuff. And then if you're going to do bigger things, then it needs to be, number one, needs to be in a safe environment that children are not allowed to go fiddling around in it. Having had children myself, I can tell you it's really hard to keep a 3-year-old out of your stuff. And they don't really understand the risks that are associated with things. And so it's best to keep children in a place where they can watch the fireworks, but are not involved in the actual setting things off. The other thing about that is that, 4th of July is often associated with adult beverages that can make even adults not as risk aware. And so if that's going to be the case, then I really recommend, no drugs and alcohol and things like that would impair your judgment as well. There are some safe things to do. We do recommend, the National Safety Council recommends, if you're going to do that, please wear eyewear to protect your eyes in particular, because even little sparks can fly up into your eyeball, and that's no good. And furthermore, keep children well away from them so that the random sparks are flying at them. The other thing that's important, and this is fun to do sometimes, they hold these Roman candles. Don't choose those. Don't choose fireworks where you have to actually hold them, because sometimes they'll blow up early or whatever else it is. And I can tell you, having done this for 30 years now, very, very common to see somebody come in with a mangled hand from fireworks that we have to deal with. It says on the list of things, never light them indoors. I think that's pretty self-evident, but you never know. And then, or have any kind of inflammable material around. Sometimes people will do it in their, by their garage. They have to have a gas can in or something like that. Pay attention to what's around you, and go to do this. If you decide to do that, and it's in a legal place. A lot of counties it's illegal. That's another thing to pay attention to. If it is illegal in your county, they will come get you, and particularly now. And so, go to a place that is legal. In that legal place, make sure it is a safe place. It doesn't have any flammable material around that might cause a problem. And then the next one is the same kind of deal. It's fairly self-evident, I think. Don't point anything at anybody; you'll burn them. Again, it is a firework, and uh, try not to put these massive concoctions together where you're trying to blow up 25 of them at the same time. I chuckle at this because we have tried things like that before. Many of us have, and most of the time doesn't work out very well. Try not to use containers to set them off. That can be a problem. The most typical one of those is bottle rockets. You have to put them in a bottle. But they at the hardware stores, at the firework things, they usually have things that are specifically for that you can buy that will make it safer. If it doesn't go off, leave it alone. Turn it off. Don't try to start it again, because what's happened is that fuse is a different length and it's going to do something unexpected. And so that's really the general notion of doing home fireworks is be safe and pay attention to what the things are. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. And because that's when you push the margins, I would say that's where you start end up with way more risk. And then finally,
go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Finally, the best thing. So when you do this, if you have a fire extinguisher in your house, which you should have, if you don't, go get one. Number one, usually keep it in the kitchen someplace. That's where a lot of those kind of deals happen. But break that thing out for this event. And so if there is a problem, that you can get it extinguished very quickly, and never use illegal fireworks, because that's a problem. So those are the safety notes. Again, to reiterate, the safest thing is to not do it at all. Or if you're going to do something that's festive, use things that don't light on fire to do that have light poles or something like that. If you do decide to do it, again, it's if it's legal where you are, just be safe.
Right. I think a lot of people, want to talk about sparklers because they're perceived as safe and something that you can give children to participate in, and to have them use. You talked about the use of glow sticks instead earlier. Let's talk about sparklers and why they're so dangerous.
Yeah, remember, sparklers are fire. Those things can be up to about 2,000 degrees, and the problem is they look pretty cool until it catches your shirt on fire. And then that's a problem. Or you've got gasoline around or something like that, and so it used to be something we give to young kids, but it's also it can be very unsafe, and so it's important to think about that. Again, the festive parts of that stuff, yeah. So be creative, find out some other way. But the glow sticks is a good thing for a 3-year-old to run around the yard in.
And they last longer.
That's right. And so that's something to consider.
So, to some practical advice from a specialist in pediatric burns, what should a parent do immediately if their child is burned at a 4th of July celebration?
So again, this kind of goes back to that safety thing. If you have, you're going to do fireworks, instead have a fire extinguisher there, be prepared for a outlier event, like something gets caught on fire. And the best time to prepare for something is ahead of time, not during. And so have a bucket of water, a fire extinguisher around, something along those lines. And the most important thing to do is, if something or somebody catches on fire, the first thing to do is get them put out. That can be done with a fire extinguisher or a bucket of water, or pool, or whatever you got. That's the most important thing. Second is, once that's been put out, then the fire's been put out, is if it's a smallish area, say half your arm or something like that, that size area, about 5% TBSA is what we would call it. Is the best thing to do is to get room temperature water. It doesn't have to be cold. Ice doesn't help, but to run room temperature water from the faucet or a garden hose over that area for 15 minutes or so. And that's there have been some good studies in the last 5-6 years out of Australia in particular that show that that does actually decrease the amount of injury that you have, and that so that 15-minute time period is important. It's not a minute; it's 15 minutes, and they've had some pretty good evidence to suggest that that's a benefit. So once you've been burned, put it out, and then try to decrease the amount or decrease the depth of it by with the cold water stuff. Then you've done all that. What's next thing to do? Go to a provider, go to a burn center. That's what we do. And our mission is to make it better for you, and to decrease the pain and suffering and scarring and everything else that can occur from these things. And it's way better it's way easier or way more effective, I think is the best way to say that, as we get in early on that game. So you've got it cooled off. What do you have to put on it? You have to put something on it? No, just wrap it up with whatever you got and come to the hospital. By putting other stuff on it, sometimes can make it even more difficult. And so we recommend just a dry dressing, and come to a provider. It's probably an emergency room. If it's bad enough, then they'll send them to a burn center, and that's what we're here for.
So let's talk about, child is burned. You went to, you took all those precautions. You went to the emergency room, but your child is definitely going to need some, follow-up care. Why should someone choose Shriners Hospitals for Children for their care for burns? If it's not a huge burn and a life-threatening burn, that's what most people think of us for.
Yeah, so you remember the Shriners Hospitals for that. The burn hospitals, there's 4 of us. That's what we do in children. It's not, that's what we're set up to take care of. And all of that is set up to minimize the injury, to make it look better, to minimize the pain, all these other things that happen with that injury. And even small ones, we got all kinds of fancy gizmos and stuff that you don't have in the community ER. That we use, laser Dopplers and to tell what the actual depth is. If there is something that's problematic, we're all set up to take care of that situation right away, and because that's what we do all day, every day. And so it's just like anything. The more you do of it, the better you are at it. And the Shriners Hospitals are dedicated to, or the Shriners Hospitals with burn centers are dedicated to caring for these kids. And remember, that is our mission, is to improve their lives, improve their outcomes. What we're trying to do today is say, hey, prevent it from happening in the first place. That's always the best treatment for any condition, is to prevent it. But once you get it, there's we've done, a lot of things, a lot of work. Many of the standards of care throughout the world have come from the Shriners Burns hospitals because of our experience with doing this, even from the little ones. And then we can get you through that initial thing. If there is any longer term issues, now you're already one of our patients, there's a scar thing or some other kind of issue, we're able to quickly deal with that in the best way that you can.
Well, Dr. Wolf, want to wish you a happy Independence Day weekend, and really want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. It looks like you might have come from the OR to do this with us today, and to share the information that you have about caring for children with pediatric burns.
Well, that's my job. Happy to do it.